You've been trying the screenwriting thing, but how good are you? I mean, on a scale of beginner to advanced, how do you know where you're at? And more importantly, how do you know what you need to do to get better? Today, we're going to talk about some of the qualities that screenwriters at each level have and talk about some things you can do to help you progress as a writer to the next level. There's also several links below, so be sure to check those out. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you find value. Thank you so much for watching. Let's jump in. I have a couple of goals with this video. One, I hope by the end you can make an honest assessment and fairly accurately ballpark where you're at on this scale, beginner to advanced, with some degree of confidence that you can definitely kind of say like, hey, here's where I land. And two, once you do that, you'll know what are some things that you need to work on to improve your skill and get further down the road. For this graph, we're going to use the vertical axis as the knowledge or experience axis. So if you're brand new, you don't have much knowledge yet and you don't have much experience yet, right? So you're kind of at the bottom. The more you have, the higher you would go. And I'm putting them on the same axis, the same vertical thing, because both can help you learn and grow. And maybe you acquire knowledge quickly and can put it into practice, or maybe you just learn better by doing. So experience is what helps you learn. Either way, this axis is your ability to know what to do. The horizontal axis is your skill. You know, some of us are just naturally talented writers. Others of us, we have to work at it. But skill is about your ability to successfully execute what you want to do. You know, we've all had experiences maybe with writing or with other things. We know what to do, but we don't always know how to do it. So this graph represents both components because both are required to move toward being an advanced or professional screenwriter. I also didn't put professional on here, but I honestly don't know of any professionals who aren't in the advanced area. Now, the other thing is I don't have any like time stamps. So not 1 year, 2 years, 2 months, 10 months, whatever it is. I don't have any of that on here because some of us move through this faster than others. I mean, maybe we just have more time to practice, or maybe we learn faster or learn some things faster. Maybe we have some innate skills that we bring to the table. So this continuum, if you will, is individualized for you. You shouldn't be trying to compare where other people are at and where you're at. Just where are you on the scale? But I guarantee you started not knowing anything. And as you gain experience, knowledge, and skill, you get better. So I'm going to talk about some qualities associated with each of these areas so you can figure out where you're at. And then we'll circle back and talk about some things that you can do to move further along. And we've got to start somewhere, and we all start somewhere. So let's just start in the beginning section. No matter what anybody tells you, at one point, whoever that screenwriter is, they didn't know jack squat about screenwriting, me included. So none of the things I'm saying are meant to be taken in a derogatory manner. It's just, here's things that I've noticed people who are in the beginning section. This is what beginners tend to do, positively and negatively. And we're going to kind of talk about both of those things. But as we kind of ease into this, beginners in general are just always looking things up. I mean, you know there's this thing called VO or OS, but you're not sure when to use them. And you've heard terms like slug lines and specs and copyright and treatments, but you don't fully understand what they are or how to do them or when to do them. So quality number one with beginning screenwriters is just an unfamiliarity with the elements. I mean, we're just unfamiliar, and that's perfectly fine. And the more knowledge you gain, the more experience you gain, the more familiar you become. Number two, beginners rarely use professional software for screenwriting. And this is fine. You know, you may get some people that are like, you're not a writer if you're not using professional screenwriting software. And it's like, well, I'm still just kind of trying to figure out if I even like it or not. I'm just testing the waters, right? I'm just seeing. I'm in the shallow end here. I'm not like diving off the deep end. So I don't know if I want to invest the money yet. And that's perfectly fine. Many people try screenwriting and then decide it's not for them. So why invest in the software? So I totally get it. I personally didn't buy any software till my third script. So I had already written 2 and I wrote them in Microsoft Word. And no, I will not be sharing those with anyone ever, if I even still have them. I don't even know where they're at. A third quality of beginning screenwriters is they tend to mechanically follow or wholesale reject script formatting guidelines. So the rules, quote unquote, of screenwriting. Screenplays are supposed to look a certain way on the page, and there's a lot of reasons for why things look like they look. But new writers are always looking for the right way to do something in format. What's the right way to format a slug line? What's the right way to show interior exterior of a car? What's the right way to do a phone booth in downtown New York? Like, what is the right way? Always looking for the right way, because we got to do it the right way in format. So if you ever question what the right way is, and then if you followed it exactly, like whatever the answer you found, then you just did it exactly, that's a beginner quality. A fourth quality of beginning writers is they cannot articulate the difference between story and storytelling. Now, maybe you can kind of tell what they are, you kind of starting to understand that they're a little different, but you have trouble articulating it. The thing is with screenwriting is it takes both. You have to have solid story, and you also have to tell it really well. So you can't be a screenwriter without understanding both. And it's hard for you to learn until you understand both. Every time I've taught screenwriting at a university level, this is the lesson on day one. The difference between story and storytelling. And if you don't know, you're just still in the beginner zone. Number 5, the methods that you use, so whether you're outlining or writing or whatever you're doing, all those methods are borrowed. They're not your own. You've seen somebody else like, hey, they did this, and so you're just replicating it. You're trying it out. This is 100% normal, and you should keep trying new things until you find the methods that work for you. Note cards aren't for everybody, but they might be for you. Handwritten things aren't for everybody, maybe for you. Maybe you want to actually type it on a typewriter or just type it out. Maybe you want to use specific software. All that stuff. Maybe trying new equipment. Experiment and try new things, which is actually number 6, the willingness to experiment wildly. I mean, there's no expectations for yourself yet. You don't have anything you've got to prove. You're not doing anything for anybody. You can try anything, and it's awesome, and it's new, and the first time anyone has ever thought of this one idea, and I'm going to write the story because it's going to be awesome, whether they have thought of it or not. But you don't care, and you don't mind getting it wrong. You're learning. Now, sure, you want to do it right? I mean, who doesn't want to do it right? But who cares if you don't? I mean, throw caution to the wind. Write that story. Sure, why not? This is great. And you want to hold on to this quality because it's helping you begin to find and hone your voice, especially if you're a new writer. So experiment wildly, try new things, hold on to that one. I will tell you, one of the qualities of advanced or professional writers is they still hold on to this quality. They're willing to try new things and experiment wildly. So hold on to it and don't lose it. Number 7, and this one's probably a pitfall. So if you notice this in yourself, you really want to kind of get rid of this one, okay? And it's this. Some beginning writers are always looking for the quick fix. They treat a screenplay like it's a magic ATM that's just going to start spitting out checks. All you have to do is just write a screenplay, and then you can sell it and, retire to wherever you want to retire to. These are the writers who are always looking for things like the 10 easy steps to getting an agent. As if getting an agent were easy, as if it were as simple as 10 easy steps, and as if that was the answer to all your problems. Having an agent is not the answer to all your problems. You still have to market yourself and market your scripts, okay? So you can't just keep looking for the quick fix, but beginners tend to look for the quick fix. Here's what intermediate writers know that beginner writers don't. Screenwriting is hard work, and it takes time. And any writer moving into the intermediate section is doing so because they know they're going to have to put in the work. So let's move and look at some qualities of intermediate writers. So intermediate writers, intermediate qualities. Intermediate writers come in knowing it's gonna be hard work. They've written a couple of scripts. They've got a couple under the belt. They know what it's gonna take to do it, and they're willing to do it anyway. So if you know what to expect, and this one's not necessarily one of the qualities I'm listing, but this will kind of help differentiate. If you know what to expect as you write, like, okay, here's where I normally have problem in this drafting process. Here's where I struggle with creating things. If you've had enough experience to know, here's some hurdles you're going to have, here's some obstacles you're going to face, you're probably more in the intermediate. If you've not done it enough to know what to expect, even if you've done one or two, you're still probably in the beginning stage. So even if you know it's hard work, okay? So again, this is a fluid scale, right? So there's some things that may be here, some here, but you might be more of this one and some of this one. So you're kind of getting close to moving to intermediate, something like that. So just kind of be aware as we're moving through these. They're fluid, and they really depend on the person and how you learn and the types of things that you have learned and how you are integrating them into your writing. Quality number 2, though, for an intermediate writer is, even though they know it's going to be hard work, they know they've got to revise, they know they're going to have to rewrite, they don't always know how to revise or how to rewrite. Okay, they know they're going to have to do it. They just don't know always how. And rewrites and revisions tend to just be things like tweaking scenes or making dialogue adjustments, because they just don't really know how to analyze a story properly and pull it apart. So I've got to take the whole thing apart, put it back together in this other way. That's rewriting, that's revising. But if all you're doing is just like scene tweaks and futzing with dialogue, okay, that's you're probably an intermediate writer, because you know you got to change it, you know you got to make it better, you just don't always know how to make it better, and you're afraid you might even be making it worse. And this segues into the third quality, which is intermediate writers are willing and want to get notes. They want to get feedback, okay? But they don't always know how to interpret those notes. And this comes back actually to the story versus storytelling. I mean, intermediate writers are starting to understand the difference, okay? Starting to understand, starting to grasp, but sometimes interpreting notes is confusing. So let me give you an example. If someone says, you know, I just didn't care about the main character. Okay, beginning writers for sure, and many early intermediate writers are going to think that this is a note about character. I just didn't care about the main character. Oh, well, there's something wrong with my character. I got to fix my character. That note has nothing to do with character. It's not about character at all. It's actually a note about storytelling and the audience's experience with the story and their experience with the character. But if you got a note that said, yeah, this character is just unmotivated. Okay, now that's a story note, even though it feels like a storytelling note. So if the audience doesn't care, that's storytelling. And so a lot of intermediate writers, they misinterpret notes if they aren't getting notes from someone who is also explaining what the note actually means. So sometimes you may want, yes, you want some feedback. Yes, you want some notes. Yes, you want to know how to improve, because you know you need to improve it, you just don't know how, but you also don't know how to interpret the notes. So you need somebody giving you the notes and interpreting them for you to help you process them properly and apply them in your writing. Quality number 4 of intermediate writers is intermediate writers are using screenwriting software. Now, it might be paid software, it might be free software, doesn't matter. You'll hear people and it seems like they have a thing like, oh, it's got to be paid software and it's got to be this. And usually it's related to, it's got to be Final Draft, because that's the industry standard, or at least that's what they want to argue. Final Draft is not the industry standard. A PDF is the industry standard. So if the software you're using can export a PDF, you're fine. If somebody ultimately really wants a Final Draft version of it, most paid softwares actually export a Final Draft file. You'll be just fine. And if they're paying you for it, then you can go out and buy a Final Draft and give them a Final Draft version if that's what you really need to do. Quality number 5, intermediate screenwriters, their stories still tend to be a bit predictable. Now, this isn't to say that the stories are bad, because usually they're not. Usually they're very inventive because they're holding on to this, I want to take chances, I want to experiment, I want to try new things. But intermediate writers are beginning to try and incorporate some of these different techniques and skills that they are learning. But at times, the use is just a little clunky. It's not elegant yet. It hasn't, they haven't learned how to master its use, and the story as a result just comes off as flat or predictable. Even though they might be using the right tool in the right place, it's just a little clunky. It's not quite there yet. Yes, you've got some nice character arcs, you got some twists and turns, there's nice surprises, but the finesse, it's just not quite there yet. It's close, it's getting there, but it's just not quite there yet. Quality number 6 is intermediate writers are also busy finding their voice, and their writing starts to have a distinctive feel and flavor. Like you can start to put their script against other scripts and be able to pick out their voice. And if these writers were to go back and look at something that they've written, they might even think, well, who wrote this? Like, this doesn't even sound like me. So they're developing and honing their voice even more, but now it's even starting to feel distinctive from them, right? It's starting to feel like somebody else possessed me, somebody else took over. Or it feels so much like them that there's no separation. It's totally their voice. So it's either they've created a unique voice that they use when they write, or it's so much like them that we can pick it out at, whatever we're reading. And either option is fine. Like, both are fine. So don't be thinking like, oh, if it sounds divorced from me, that I've got to make it sound more like me, or if it sounds like me, I've got to make it more. No, either is fine. Okay. So, but you do kind of want one or the other. Okay. You kind of need to do that to let your voice really start to come out. And this leads to quality number 7, which is a willingness to be vulnerable. When I see writing, when I read it, I want to see a beating, bleeding heart, yours, the writer's, on the page, pulsating right there. And when we write, the skeletons in our closets are going to sneak out and creep out. Intermediate writers begin to let this happen. Beginning writers don't let this happen. Okay, nope, I can't let that out. I don't want people to know that about me. Intermediate writers begin to let this happen. Advanced writers, though, this is their first quality, are totally willing to be naked on the page. I mean, they're fully vested in telling a great story. No matter the personal cost, no matter what comes out of the closet, no matter what happens. Okay, advanced writers are concerned with the story and the story only. Everything else is secondary. Parts of me that come out doesn't matter. I want to tell a great story. Advanced writers know this, so they're willing to be vulnerable, heavily vulnerable, and almost naked on the page. Quality number 2 of an advanced writer is they know what they're good at and what they aren't good at. And because of that, they're much more willing to ask for help. And what I'm about to say, I'm not saying to toot my own horn, but just to kind of give you an example, I am really great, like really good at story structure. I can pick apart a story really fast, okay? And my stories that I write are structurally sound. People ask me to help them with their story structure because they know that I can nail it. But when it comes to my own writing, the things that I'm not good at is, sometimes I usually miss the audience emotion. What I'm guessing the audience might be feeling, I get it wrong. I have friends who read my stuff who are really good at the emotional audience guessing. Like they know, like, no, what you're saying here, the audience is going to feel this, and I don't think that's what you want to feel. I'm like, yeah, I don't want them to feel that. So they're able to help point those out for me and help me fix them. I help them with structure. Okay, and this is what starts to happen when you start to become a little more advanced. You start to find other people that are good at things that you're not good at, and you are perfectly comfortable in admitting, hey, I'm not good at that. Whereas new writers especially are just like, hey, I don't know anything, I'm learning. Intermediate writers are very protective, like, oh no, I'm good at everything. I can do whatever. Like, show me that. It's like, no, you can't. We all have weaknesses. We all have blind spots. There's things that we're just not good at. And advanced writers know what they're good at and what they're not. Advanced writers also fully embrace collaboration. Screenwriting is actually a fairly small community. Filmmaking is also small. And you work with a lot of the same people. There's the whole like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I mean, in filmmaking, it's a lot less than that. And so what you want to do is you want to work to be a good neighbor. You want to work to help others do their job. And this is why formatting is important. It helps everyone else making the film do their job. It makes it easier for them. So when you're going to break a rule with formatting, An advanced writer knows, okay, if I break it in this way, I'm still helping them be able to do their job, and it's clear for the reader. Whereas a beginner might just say, I'm just not going to do it that way, I'm going to do it this other way. Well, you don't understand how that's going to impact things down the road, and so that's not really a good choice. If you can understand that this is a collaborative medium, you start to learn to be a really good neighbor. And that leads into quality number 4. Advanced writers understand the filmmaking process. Now, they may not be able to go out and make their own film, but they understand how it works. Any advanced writer has spent at least a little time, in or around a film set. Maybe they're making their own stuff. Maybe they're shooting shorts and just trying to learn, or maybe they're helping out on a big production. If you go to film school, this is why most film schools want writers to learn how a set works and how editing works. And this is also why, if you're studying editing, why they want editors to learn how to be on set and how to write. And directors, they want them to learn how to write. And producers, we want you to learn how to write, but we also want you to learn how to edit. And directors, we want you to learn all these pieces because you're going to be kind of managing all this happening to make the movie work. But when you're at film school, you are kind of forced to get these experiences, not because they're trying to keep you from doing what you want to do, but because it helps you do your job better because you're able to communicate to other people. It helps you do your job when you know how others have to do their job. And again, you don't have to know all the things about their job, but you do have to know enough about it so that you can help them and make it easier for them to do their job. In advanced writers, here's the thing with advanced writers, kind of related to this, so it's part of, is advanced writers want to learn. They try to get on sets. They take an acting class or anything they can do to learn the filmmaking process because they want to know. Sometimes they'll just take an editing class or a sound design class because I want to know how that works. What's an acting class like? Maybe I just go to a couple of auditions trying to get a role on a film because I just want to see what that's like. So learn the filmmaking process. A 5th quality is advanced writers want to share what they know. Most of them want to give back. They like giving back. As an example, I love doing these videos. I just want to help other writers. I also love teaching. I love it when you leave comments and like and subscribe and interact in some way, right? So, what am I sharing that's helping you? Drop that below. I also really appreciate it. I love the questions that you leave in the comments. If you've read, I really try to answer them. At some point, maybe I can't, but right now I can. And I love answering those questions. I also just love teaching in general. But I haven't met any advanced writer who isn't willing to answer an intelligent question from a writer who's still learning. Search Google, search threads, search online groups, try to find your answer. If you can't find your answer and you ask an advanced writer, we are almost all are willing to help and answer the question because we love helping others and making it easier for others who are coming behind us. That's just a quality of advanced writers. It's part of the community because we understand it's small. We understand it's hard. Take advantage of that, but do it, ask intelligent questions, right? Quality number 6 is advanced writers have their process figured out. They know how to approach an outline or whether they should for a specific story. Because maybe for this specific story, they're not really going to outline much. But for this one, yeah, I am. For me personally, sometimes I outline a lot. Sometimes just a little. But it's not because when I approach the project, I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like outlining today. I'm just not going to do it for this story. No, it depends on the story. And I'm able to assess the story and know ahead of time, here's what I'm going to need to make the story successful in an efficient manner, because my time's valuable. I don't want to waste my time doing something that I don't want to be doing or spinning my wheels on something I shouldn't be. I want to make an efficient use of time. So sometimes I know okay, I'm going to do it this way, and other times I'm going to do it this way. But I have processes. I know how I'm going to do it, and I can generally tell you, okay, this part of the process is going to take me this long. This part of the process is going to take me this long. Another way to say this is advanced writers know what tool to use from their toolbox and when to use it. We've been spending our time filling up our toolbox, right? We learn all these tools, but now we know here's what to use. So if I just use this metaphor for a second. New writers get a toolbox and they just start filling it with tools. Like, ooh, there's this, ooh, there's this, oh, there's this, that looks cool. I want to use that sometime. And you just start dropping things in the toolbox. But when you're trying to do something, everything's kind of a hammer. Okay, you just no, it's all the same kind of thing. So you've got all these tools, but you're not really sure how to use them. You try to use them all the same way because you haven't quite learned how to finesse the tool yet, which is perfectly fine. That's totally normal. Intermediate writers might branch out to some other specialty tools, right? Maybe they get a drill or a specialty socket wrench or something like that. They add it to, but they're starting to now figure out like, ooh, you know what? I could use this drill here or this socket wrench here. Advanced writers though, okay, we're going for the highly specialized, specific tool. It does the one job. Like this is the section in the hardware store where there's the one tool that does this one very specific thing. And advanced writers, they pick out that thing and they put it in their toolbox and they know when they need to use it and they use it in exactly the right way for the one specific reason and then they put it back away. But the thing is, you can't use that specialty tool until you've learned how to swing a hammer or hold a drill, right? It's a process. You have to learn the main things and then you kind of start to get a little more nuance and then you start to know like, oh, you know what, to do this job I just need this one, this one, this one. You pull those out, you go do the job. Advanced writers know that. Beginning screenwriters just bring their whole toolbox because they're not really sure what they're going to need. Advanced writers don't ever do that, right? We know where the toolbox is. It's in the garage, but I only need these 5 things to do this. The last quality I'm going to mention for advanced writers, and then we're going to get into some tips of how to move from one to the other. The last quality of advanced writers is advanced writers are innovators. I mean, the stories they tell are fresh and new. Now, it's not the story necessarily is fresh and new, okay? So you can kind of make an argument that there's not really any new stories. However, the way you tell a story can be very fresh and very new. And because of this innovative attitude, advanced writers know how to get someone's attention with a good story and they know how to tell it well. They see things just a little different than the rest of us. I mean, they can explain complex ideas so simply that anyone can understand. In other words, they're really just master problem solvers. They know how to fix, they know how to improve, they know how to analyze what did or isn't working. They can do all of it. They know how to solve a problem. Now, actually, this is one of the answers I will sometimes give to people when they ask me, like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I solve problems. Like, that's my job. That's what I do. I solve problems all day. And you can even think of movies this way and working on a movie. It's like, you know, how do you get a movie made? Well, you just keep solving problems until you've solved them all, and then you have a movie. And that's really what it is. Everyone is a problem solver. When you're at this advanced level, you're an innovator. You're trying to figure it out. We just got to solve the problem. What's a new way to solve the problem? How can we do it? Oh, what if we do it this way? And you figure it out, and then off you go. So let's get into some tips of how to move to a new zone. So beginner, intermediate, advanced. How do you move from one? So let me mention a few things that are helpful at every level. Doesn't matter, beginner, intermediate, advanced, they're all doing these things. One, reading books on screenwriting or things related to screenwriting. Find good screenwriting books, start reading. Doesn't matter where you're at on the chart. Find a book you haven't read, read it. Try to learn it. Try to process what's working. How could I incorporate this? Is this valid? Is it not valid? All those things, start wrestling with those. Number 2, things that everybody does to move up. Read screenplays. The higher up you are, actually, the more screenplays people tend to read. So you might think like, oh, you know, I'm reading a couple screenplays a month. Like, that's cool. You know, a couple screenplays a month. Most advanced writers are probably reading at least one a week, or at least definitely parts of one a week for sure. So, you know, just the more you move up, the more you start to read. Reading helps you learn. It helps you stay abreast of new trends and what people are doing and what people like and what people don't like. So read lots of screenplays. And a third thing that everybody does, like to help you move up, is watch lots of stuff. This one probably seems obvious, but a lot of people just stop at the watching and they don't do the second part, which is really the critical part, which is analyzing it. I just watched this episode of TV. Why did I like it? How was it working? What made it work? Analyze it, especially the stuff you like. What makes it work? What makes it not? So you want to start asking those kinds of questions. If you can start to analyze things that you're watching lots of stuff, that's going to start to help you move up into a different zone. As a beginner, there's a couple things you can do. One, take a writing or a screenwriting course. Maybe that's a local community college, it might be an actual film school, maybe it's just a one class or whatever. Maybe it's an online class. Take a class to learn something specific about screenwriting. And yes, I have a screenwriting course. It's called the Screenwriting Fast Track. It's stuff I wish I had learned early on. And it's essentially what you'd learn in a first semester course at a university, probably a lot cheaper than a university course, by the way. But there's a link below. You don't have to take mine though. Okay, so don't feel like, oh, well, if I don't take Jake's, then whatever. Like, no, I don't care if you take mine. I'd love for you to take it because I think it's really helpful. But if you want to take somebody else's, but take a class. That will help you learn. And maybe I'm just not the right guy for you, but you need something where you can learn fundamentals, where you can learn some deadlines, learn how to manage expectations, where you can learn how to write. Something else as a beginner you can do. Finish one script. A lot of people start, very few finish. Finish. Get to the end. Don't worry about how good it is. Just get to the end. Press on, get to the end, write the end, and it might be really bad. That's fine. You've written a script, put it aside. Now go write 4 more while you're doing the other reading and watching and learning and all that other stuff. So learn about what you don't know. This is another tip. Learn about what you don't know. YouTube videos like this, maybe. Some are helpful. There's a lot out there. Some are not that helpful, honestly. So suss out the info, suss out what's working, what's not, and begin to learn what's good. Another thing you can do as a beginning writer is lurk in online groups and online boards. You can learn a lot just from reading posts by others who are working on the craft, people asking questions, what are people answering? You can learn a lot. And as you start feeling up to it, maybe you want to start posting and interacting, but initially lurking is totally fine. As an intermediate writer, here's some things you can do. 1, join a screenwriting group. Be with others who are writing screenplays. Encourage them, let them encourage you. You trade writing, you comment on each other's stuff, what's working, what's not working, help each other learn. Another thing, go to university for a degree or a graduate degree. Now, this is not for everybody, right? And sometimes it's cost prohibitive, sometimes it's location prohibitive. I get it. I was able to do this. I had an opportunity, I took advantage of it, and personally, I loved my experience, but it's not for everyone. That's okay. If you have that option and you feel like it's for you, that might be something that will really help. Another thing you can do is getting some coaching. Maybe that coaching might be about a specific part of your writing, or maybe you want some coaching to just kind of walk through the whole process. But working with someone one-on-one can be a lot of help to you, especially if you're still trying to figure out your process and what works and what doesn't. Having somebody coach you through some things might actually be really helpful. Another thing you can do, take your best script that you think you've written and get some professional coverage on it. See what others say about your stuff. See what they say. Maybe they say like, hey, this is really great, or the character stuff is not so good, and you're thinking, well, character stuff I thought was good. Well, if a bunch of people are telling you your character stuff's not good, maybe that's something you can work on. So now go try to learn that. Another thing you can do, get a script consultation. Coverage. Okay, if you just get coverage, thing I just mentioned, that's just a written report. You send your script in, somebody reads it, they send you back a written report, that's it. A consultation, though, involves an actual conversation with someone about your story. And you can talk about what is and isn't working, what you were trying to do, and they say, well, that was kind of working here, but not really here. And this is actually something advanced and professional screenwriters do from time to time as well. They get some consulting because sometimes they just don't see it. They want somebody else's opinion. I'm trying to do this, help me figure out a way around this. And as you're starting to figure things out, this can be really helpful. The thing with consulting, though, is you don't want to do it too early in your career because you need to be able to understand all the terms and start to begin to understand the notes. And if you do it too early, you may not understand the notes you're getting or the terms are being used, and then you spend all your consulting time just having them explain basic things to you that you could learn on your own. So you kind of need to be in the intermediate stage to get story consulting if that's of interest to you. And as far as these elements go, I do offer script consultations. I do offer coaching, but my coaching is a robust experience. It's a 4-month-long journey where I help you develop a solid idea, and we go through the whole process of writing a screenplay. So we figure out the idea, outlining notes, breaking the story, figuring it out, drafting all the way through a solid draft, and even giving you some notes for your next revision. And I don't take everyone because my time is limited. So you do have to apply. There is an application. It's not painful. It's just there to make sure that we're a good fit. So if either of those two things interest you, there's links below. If you don't want to use me, again, that's fine. That's all good. These are all just options in the intermediate stage, typically where they can help you the most. So these are all the things that can help you. One other thing you can do, and this is for advanced writers too, is take an acting class. I kind of mentioned that, but you can learn a ton about writing dialogue by learning to act at least a little. As an advanced writer, things you can do to even get better: acting class, which I just mentioned, help on set. There's probably student films in your area. Go get on board one of those. They usually shoot on weekends anyway, so offer to help, offer to act in one. Use help with your acting class. Maybe you can be an extra on a film set. If there's a film that's coming close to you, talk to your local film commission. Maybe there's a local film coming, or a big studio film. There might even be a little pay with it, and you get to learn a lot about filmmaking just by watching people. You can also talk to new writers. Okay, as an advanced writer, talk to new writers. If you have to learn how to explain something, because somebody asks you a question, okay, how do I explain this to somebody? You actually learn it better. You actually are able to retain it better. I mean, we don't remember very much of what we hear or see, but we remember about 90% of what we teach. So try to explain a concept to a new writer. You'll lock it in your brain, and that will help you. Now, there may be some other things that I've forgotten to include that are helpful. This is a long video. There's a lot of stuff here, but if there's something that has been helpful to you in learning the craft, drop it below for others to use, and be sure to note what level you were at when that thing was helpful to you. Hopefully this has been very helpful and encouraging to you. That's my goal. I hope it has been. If it has, please be sure to like, subscribe, bell, all those things. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. When you go to tell a story that matters. See you later.